Hi my loves! So today I wanted to film a video. I was actually kind of just sitting here eating my little rainbow cupcake. Sorry about that. Had to have a little bit of the icing, really good. But I wanted to do a first impression video on this foundation. And I picked up this foundation a few days ago, if it will focus on it. It's the NYX Total Control Cover Drop Foundations. It's supposed to be similar, I think, to the Cover FX, or at least like the idea of like the dropper foundation, I think was kind of inspired by that. So I figured I'd want to try it out. I got this at my local Harmon Beauty Supply, which is basically a place where you can get like drugstore type makeup, in addition to other like, it's kind of like a Rite Aid almost. So basically, I picked this up. It was on a sale. I got the shade number 11 in beige. This was actually one of the shades that was on sale. There was a lighter shade than this that I think would have worked for me better. Obviously, you can see that my face is very pale. But I figured, you know what? I can always lighten it. I did actually pick up the LA Girl White Foundation. So if I ever need to, I can use this. But I do want to see how the formula works by itself before I decide to mix anything in with it. So again, I have the shade number beige, or number 11 shade beige, and this comes with 0.43 fluid ounces of product, which is 30 milliliters. In addition, it comes with the dropper style bottle that you can see here. It's a very liquidy foundation, so I'm gonna see if it works for me because I don't ever apply my foundations with a brush. I do always use a sponge, and sponges are definitely not the best for very liquidy foundations. But if it has a high enough coverage, I can normally get them to work anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and try it. Ooh, breaking things. I'm going to go ahead and try it out now. I'm really just going to go ahead and just start applying it and see how it goes. I don't really have any method to how I want to do this other than I'm not going to drop it straight to my face because I feel like I'm just way uncoordinated enough for that. So I'm dropping about, I don't know, that much maybe. Hopefully you guys can see it. I'm not really gonna go by like, oh, this many drops, because what I gathered from watching other reviews is that the amount of drops that they recommend to use is actually not anything that you can really use to cover your whole face, because it's like, what, 4 drops maybe, and they say that's gonna give you full coverage. And in my opinion, 4 drops for your whole face full coverage, I don't think so. So I'm gonna go ahead and just take that little bit, and I'm gonna see how far that this goes. I'm probably going to try to do one side of my face first, just so that we can see in comparison what the shade looks like, in addition to the coverage and just how it sits on the skin in comparison to my natural skin. So I'm just going to dot this all over. And again, it is super liquidy, so it feels very thin. And I dot my foundation like this all the time when I apply my makeup. It's just, it wastes the least amount of product and it's easier to get more even coverage. If you're using a sponge, I do recommend that, because if you dip it into the little puddle that you have right away, it will soak up most of it. So I prefer to just dot it, and I think that works the best for me. Actually, I'm gonna just use the whole amount that I had. I use a lot of foundation, so I'm not gonna be shy with this. And it doesn't matter if it's a full coverage or not. I use a lot of foundation. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now I'm going to take my sponge. I dampened it with some water, but I am going to spray it again, just slightly, just so that it's really damp, because my skin has been really dry lately. And then I'm going to go in and just start kind of pouncing around. This shade is a little bit dark, honestly, but it's not horrible. I feel like once I use my concealers and stuff, it'll actually look pretty decent. And I haven't been wearing too much makeup lately, so my skin really isn't the nicest. I feel like when I wear a lot of makeup, my skin actually looks nicer because I take care of my skin a lot better. But you know what? I think that's the perfect time to really see how a foundation will sit on your skin, is when it's not looking the best, because if it looks good when your skin doesn't look that great, gonna look good the entire time. So I'm going to do this. Oh, actually, another thing I wanted to mention too, my lashes, I know they probably look a little janky right now because I just kind of threw them on, but I actually tried out one of these lash tools. Got it from Ulta, like $10, I'm pretty sure it was. Actually really good. I never really thought about using one of those things because I just figured like they're the same thing as tweezers, and why would I need a separate tool? But I actually think it's easier to apply my lashes that way. Definitely recommend picking one of those up if you have problems like applying your lashes with normal tweezers or just your fingers. Alrighty, so from what I can gather of the foundation, it actually sits on my skin pretty well. I'm not mad about it. I don't think the coverage is the best. It's probably, I would say, a light medium coverage with just the one layer on. Obviously, this color is way off from my natural skin tone on my face, but it's not horrible, like I said. I do also really like that this has a super yellow undertone. A lot of foundations for me, I never get a foundation that's light enough in shade, but also has the correct undertone. So for me, if the undertone matches and it's a little bit dark, I will make it work because I can never get a shade that's correctly the right amount of yellow and the lightest amount in the shade. So for me, this is actually not too bad. I don't hate it. I can definitely make it work. I've used foundations that were around this shade, if not a little bit darker before, and made them work. So it's not horrible. I don't hate it. So right now, what I can tell you is that it's sitting on my dry skin really nicely. It's not like going cakey or patchy looking. I don't think that it looks really weird when applied with the sponge. I thought that it might go on a little bit patchy like some do if they're very thin and you apply them with sponges, because the sponge will soak up so much of it that in some areas it'll go patchy, but I don't really think that's happening right now with this. I'm gonna go ahead and apply another layer to my skin, just a little bit. I normally go ahead and do this, like I'll apply a decent amount of foundation, but I always find I go in with just a tiny bit extra. So now, just for amount reference, I think I did around like 3 or 4 drops maybe. And I might not use all of this to do my second layer. I don't really go in with as much as I did the first time. And just kind of dot that around, and we're going to see how the coverage changes with this layer. So already it's definitely building. I would say this is more of a medium full coverage now. I wouldn't consider it a full coverage, but it definitely builds up pretty nicely. So, and sorry if I'm like holding this like this really just for right now, just because I really want to get in depth like an idea of it, and I'm blind. So I really need to see up close when I'm doing my makeup, how it looks on my skin. But I do think that it looks really nice. Even with 2 layers, it's building up. It doesn't look super cakey. It's not going weird or thick or anything. Sometimes foundations can start to look really thick on the skin when you do multiple layers, but I actually do like it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to finish up the other side of my face. In addition, I'm going to go ahead and finish up the rest of my face makeup, which is to apply concealer, powder, and then blush and bronzer and stuff. And that's pretty much all I'm going to add on top of it. But I do want to do that because I want to see and be able to recommend if this foundation will work with other products on top, because sometimes foundations look nice when you first apply them, but then go kind of weird when you try to blend powders and things on top. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, but I'm going to do it off camera just because I don't want to make this video too long, and then I'll come back and show you what it looks like in addition to tell you what I think of it. So I'll be right back. So for the rest of my face, I went ahead and used my City Color Contour and Define palette, and I use this for my blush, bronzer, and highlight. I just used these 3 shades right here. In addition, I went ahead and I applied my Ben Nye, or not my Ben Nye because this isn't actually that powder. I have a mix of the CoverGirl loose powder and the Makeup Revolution banana powder in here, and I use that to set my whole face. For underneath my eyes, I use my sponge, and then for the rest of my face, I use a flat top or fluffy brush, and then that's how I apply my powder. And then I spray my face down with a bit of water after just to get it to not look so dry. Setting sprays break me out, so I really just use water, so it's not really going to change how the foundation looks as far as the finish of it. It's not going to look more matte or more dewy because of that. It will look more matte than normal just because I do set it with a powder, but if you are somebody who has oily skin or you just like setting your foundation with a powder like I do, this is the type of finish that you're going to get out of it. Obviously, I have highlight on these portions of my face, but I really wanted to do my makeup the way that I would do it on an everyday basis so that you can really see what this would look like in a complete look, because I feel like looking at foundation foundation just by itself, sometimes I'm like, I'm a little iffy. But then when I go ahead and I do the rest of my makeup, I'm like, okay, I can see this now. It looks actually not too bad. One thing I do also want to mention, to lighten up the center of my face, I went ahead and I applied my regular concealer, but then I went ahead and on top of it, and I used the LA Girl foundation, and I've been using this kind of as like a matte highlight in a sense on the center portions of my face, and it works really, really well, especially if you're like me and you go slightly darker in your foundation. So just a quick tip on that, and I actually do like the way that it's been applying. It's a little bit thinner than most products, I feel like, but it makes it so that it's not super, super white when you apply it. It kind of mixes in with whatever products you have. So it actually doesn't work too bad. And for this foundation and the shade that I got, it's not too bad as far as in using them in conjunction. So final thoughts on what I think of this foundation. Price-wise, it is way too expensive for how much you get. You get less than half a fluid ounce of product, and it's about, I think, $14 or $15. It's way too much money. I don't recommend getting it unless you're going to get it on a sale or on a deal. I got this for only $7 because there was a sale going on, but if you can't get it on a sale, I don't recommend it. It's just not a good value for your money. In addition to that, some people may not love the like dropper style and the super liquidy foundation. I can see that being a very big mess, especially if you're like me and you apply it to the back of your hand first. It's just like it runs everywhere. So that's kind of a downside for me, at least just when I'm going through and I'm rushing. If I was to apply this to the back of my hand and then try and dot it all over my face, you know, it might start dripping everywhere and it might start getting everywhere. So that's just kind of a downside in my opinion. The finish of it, I think, is kind of a demi matte finish. It dries down, but I don't think it dries down so much so like the L'Oreal, I think, which one is that? It's like the Pro, is it the Pro Matte? I know it's the opposite of the Pro Glow. I can't remember what it's called. I think it's the Pro Matte foundation, but I could be wrong. But that one dries down super, super thick and super, super matte for me. I cannot use that one on its own. This one, on the other hand, I can use on its own. So I actually do like the way this sat on my skin. I will say it did get slightly cakey on my forehead. I don't know if that is the powder and foundation mix. I would have to play around with this, but I do use the same powder all the time because, again, I have dry skin, so this powder works for me. So I would say it may just be the mix of these two products together. I may have to see if I can try it with something else to get that cakiness to go away. But other than that, I don't think it looks too bad. I didn't mention this in the video, but you do have to shake this really well because it does start to separate when it's been sitting on your desk. Even just sitting for like a day or so, it does separate quite a bit. So make sure you shake this before you go ahead and start using it. The coverage is really nice. I think it's a light medium to medium full, depending on how many layers you apply. And then in addition, that will vary depending on your skin type. If you have very, very acne prone skin, a lot of redness, a lot of discoloration, a lot of stuff to cover, you may find that this is a lot lighter coverage than something for me, which I don't have a lot. In my opinion, I don't have a lot to cover. Mainly, I just have redness and I like to even my skin tone. That's the biggest portion of my skin that I like to cover. I do like a fuller coverage foundation, but fuller coverage to me may not be the same as fuller coverage to you. So just keep that in mind when you are testing foundations, is if somebody does say that it's a full coverage, don't really go by their word. If they have less to cover than you, you may find that it's a lot lighter on your skin than it is on theirs. So that's just something to keep in mind. Overall, I think it's a good foundation. I would still use it because I got it on the sale and I didn't spend too much on it. I am definitely keeping it, but I do recommend you try out like finding it on a sale, really just using coupons and trying to get that price down, because although it's a good foundation, it is definitely not good enough to, you know, justify the price tag. Maybe if it was a full fluid ounce, I wouldn't complain as much, but the fact that it's less than half, it's just way too little amount of product. And, you know, it's not super full coverage where I am using only the 4 drops that they say you need. So that is just something to keep in mind and to look out for when you're looking to pick this up if you wanted to try it. Also, I don't have the ingredient box anymore, so I can't tell you if this is a water-based foundation, but it does feel like it's water-based. I could be wrong. If it is different from what I said, then I will put that somewhere in here just so that you guys know, because I know some people that is a big thing for them, but it does feel like a very liquidy water-based foundation, so I would assume that that's what it is. yeah, so that is pretty much it for my first impression. I hope I didn't talk too long. My voice is getting very, very dry now. I need to get something to drink because I've been talking for quite a while now, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them down below. If my opinion does change at all, I don't think it will, because foundations tend to wear pretty nicely on my skin as long as they go on nicely when I first apply them. But if my opinion does change at all, I will update you guys either in another video or I'll just update you guys in the description. I will post in the description either way, so if that changes you can check down there just to keep updated. But for right now I do really like it and I think it works nice. Don't forget also my social media is in the beginning and end of this video, so you guys can go check those out if you would like. Also, last thing, if you have not subscribed already, I would really appreciate if you guys could do that for me. I'm at around 500 right now, give or take, and I would really like to get to 1,000 by the end of this year, just because that was my all-time goal. I've been on YouTube for quite a while now and I would just really like to get to that goal soon. I know I'm not the most consistent YouTuber, but the more feedback I get, the more positive vibes I get, I do get more encouraged to post. I have very bad social anxiety. I've posted videos on that in the past, but for me, even though it's social, which you would assume means that there needs to be people around, talking to a camera is not the easiest thing when I know that there are people who are going to watch it. So the more you guys interact with me and the more you guys can give me feedback, the better it is for me, in the sense that I get more motivation and I get more encouragement to post for you guys and to post more often for you guys. So I would really appreciate that if you guys could do that. And yeah, I hope you're all having a wonderful day wherever you may be, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye everybody.